Huh? 1, 2, 3, 4. Huh? 1.
I think that's what it really boils down to a lot, is how well do you know yourself.
This week on episode 21 of season 2 of Union of Muscles podcast, I'm talking with Josh Sturgill, an MMA and wrestling combatant. In this episode, we talk about how combat training has helped Josh in life and how it's helped him to create an emotionally stable personality. This episode of the Union of Muscle podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Go to www.audibletrial.com/Union of Muscle for your free trial and free book. If you're trying to catch up on some reading, find new books to read and ingest, or maybe you know someone who does. This trial not only gets you access to thousands of titles, but it also helps out the podcast. That's www.audibletrial.com/Union of Muscle.
My name is Josh Sturgill. You're listening to the Union of Muscle podcast. Live strong and prosper.
Levanta fuertemente y prospera.
Chodź to oszczędne i prosperować.
Dźwigaj dużo i odnoś sukcesy.
The views presented here may or may not be those of the host, guest, Union of Muscle, Black Hat Management, or its affiliates. Any information in this podcast should first be reviewed by the corresponding professional, whether that's medical, financial, or legal, before applying it to your life. Do you want to earn more Fitcoins? Go to www.unionofmuscle.com, scroll down and click on subscribe. If you haven't already signed up for our email list, go ahead and sign up and you'll earn a free Fitcoin. However, you can also sign up your friends, families, and anyone you feel could benefit from listening to this podcast. Put down your name as the reference so first click on subscribe. Put your name down in the reference field and you'll win a Fitcoin for getting more people engaged in a fitness activity. Listening to this podcast is a fitness activity because it gets people informed and inspired to live healthy fitness lifestyles. You're listening to the Union of Muscle podcast, where muscle meets information and inspiration. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Union of Muscles podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, Josh Sturgill. Josh, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
My name is Josh Sturgill. I'm now making my professional debut as a mixed martial artist for EWC 7, which would be my first professional fight. I am 7-1 as an amateur mixed martial artist. I've been wrestling for the past 13, 14 years now, through high school and college at Liberty University. I was a 3-time national qualifier for Liberty University, as well as a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and I've been training Muay Thai and Western style boxing for about the last 7 years, leading up to where I am now.
Awesome. Wow, that's quite the resume you have on you there. I'm sure that's going to lead to a very exciting career in the future. What got you started into combat sports?
I really wasn't a very athletic kid as I was growing up, or even through middle school. Just one day during gym class, and I started getting hit in dodgeball a lot, so I kept getting out. And our gym teacher let me do some push-ups or jumping jacks, got back into the game. So I kept doing those and kept getting out. I kept going back and forth, so he saw that I really liked to play, and I was determined. He asked me to join the wrestling team, and I did, and I fell in love right there. And that was definitely my first love, and that developed into continuing on through high school and going on through that. And once I got to Liberty, I didn't make the team my first year here,
Okay.
which is where I actually ended up finding jiu-jitsu through one of my roommates who was a part of the club here. And so I went and tried it out and found out it was just like wrestling with a little bit extra choke, joint lock. So I fell in love with that. That brought me back to wrestling as I made as I made a team the following year, and everything kind of fell into place with the people that I fell into contact with.
Which do you think had a stronger effect on your skills as a wrestler? Did the jiu-jitsu just give you such an added bonus that you would kind of recommend anyone who's in wrestling take up jiu-jitsu as well?
I would really recommend jiu-jitsu for wrestlers under caution.
Okay, why is that?
So what I mean by that is I was out of wrestling for about 2 years between high school and when I started wrestling for college. And in those 2 years is when I was doing jiu-jitsu, and I developed into my jiu-jitsu mind frame where I was comfortable on my back and I was comfortable doing different positions where in wrestling you would be in a lot of trouble if you did.
Okay.
With that, if you can do a blended style to where in jiu-jitsu you focus a lot of your top work and try to relate it to, hey, I can use this in wrestling, or this is a good way to get out of a bad position when you're on bottom in wrestling, or jiu-jitsu, do that. But transitioning from a jiu-jitsu mindset back into a wrestling mindset, when I did have those years off of wrestling competition, it really took me a while to be able to get back into my element as far as like just being a strict wrestler or just being a strict jiu-jitsu practitioner.
Now, do you have to have any type of personality traits in order to be good or to enjoy wrestling and jiu-jitsu?
For wrestling, definitely. You will find a lot of people that just can't handle the actual heat of the wrestling room. Because in high school and college, like we turn the heat on to help people sweat so we can start making weight easier, and it makes practices a lot harder. So when you get people that are used to working out at, let's say, like a gym, and they're used to the air conditioning and the cool temperatures where they're not really sweating and they don't feel hot, and they keep working out like that, then they try to go into, say, a wrestling room where we try to make it as hot as possible and we try to keep working through that. There's definitely a strong mindset of, I can get through this, that you have to have in order to be able to perform under those kind of situations. Because I've been through in high school and even since wrestling in college that people just can't make it past the introduction because the room does get so hot. That definitely adds a lot of problems into being able to keep those people that are naturally athletic and are gifted in the sport of wrestling, because they just can't handle it mentally as far as the temperature. Now, like, for jiu-jitsu on a different scale of that is, can you mentally handle being choked and be calm and at that same time to be able to know if you can get out or if you need to tap, if you're in an arm bar, like, well, how much trouble am I actually in at that point, to know your body. And I think that's what it really boils down to a lot, is how well do you know yourself.
I know that if someone kind of grabs your head or you lose control of your head, it can be very disorienting. And so even though someone might not be doing anything that actually hurts you, because someone's grabbed your head, now, there's an opposing force on your neck or how you're able to move in the world, it can be very disorienting. So a lot of times we kind of lead with our head in motion. When we're taking a step forward, sometimes we'll move our head forward before we actually move our foot forward. So we have this tendency to really lead with our head sometimes. And that can be very disorienting to people if they aren't in control of their head. They might forget that they can still move the rest of their body and still do different things with their body, even though they might not have control of their head.
Oh yeah, and it's the same thing with any other part of your body. If somebody gets a hold of your arm in the right position, and then you can't move your shoulder, so then your upper body is locked into a certain position, and your body just can't move into somewhere that you would feel comfortable, people start to panic and they start getting like a claustrophobic kind of feeling to where they panic even more, and they don't know what to do, and then they start getting frustrated and scared. They start causing problems to where they can hurt themselves or you that has control of them.
Right, so there's a lot of self-control that you have to put into this, and that you have to, it's not even a self-control as in controlling your body, but also your emotions. So there's kind of this emotional self-control that you can develop, I guess, through the practice of jiu-jitsu, of a lot of martial arts, and of wrestling. It's that ability to know that, yes, you're in a tight spot, but if you panic and you got to control kind of your emotions from putting you into a panic state.
Oh yeah, and like you said, it is the same way for other martial arts, even in life.
Right.
Like say you lose your job out of nowhere, and then are you going to panic and start to resort to doing crime or something like that that's not going to be beneficial to you, or are you going to keep a calm head and know that you're going to be able to find a new job and you're going to have the skills and the professionality of it to be able to take that next step forward under that pressure? It's the same way through wrestling, jiu-jitsu, MMA, or anything. As long as you are calm under pressure, you're going to be able to do so much more than what you ever thought you'd do. Just because you can, the more calm you stay, the better you'll be able to see those opportunities that just come up. There's the way like you panic and you go to the first outlet that you find. You're not going to be able to see that shining light that's hidden off in the back corner like you would if you were calm.
Right. Yeah, no, I really like that you relate this back to life, because I think for me, that's another thing I also get when I'm working out at the gym, is that when I'm working out, I put myself in positions where I'm under stress, I'm under not a lot of pain, but you're under a lot of pressure, and sometimes it can be a little scary when you have when you're lifting something heavy and there's a chance, of injury if you lose your cool. So it also kind of helps to put you in a position where you have to manage your emotions, or else you could get hurt or hurt somebody else. And that has helped me out in life as well. I notice that when I'm engaged in some type of physical activity like that, where I have to be in control of my emotions, it then helps me control my emotions during the day. Now, some people out there think we should be paying a lot of attention to our emotions and that we shouldn't suppress them. But I think they're almost supposing that just because you can control your emotions doesn't mean you're ignoring your emotions. So I think that's a hard line to begin to define in life, is number one, being able to acknowledge those emotions, try to understand where they're coming from, but then two, not necessarily reacting as those emotions might naturally or instinctively tell you to react. Because, we're more than just reactionary creatures. We can actually think. We have brains. We do. Despite what some people might think out there about the driver next to them, everybody out there does have a functioning brain. And
Right.
And you do have the ability to use that if you don't let the reaction of emotion take over. And I think it's okay for us to be able to recognize and understand our emotions while we're out there, but also know that it's not always the best thing to rely on your gut instinct, as some people say. Because sometimes your gut instinct tells you to flee or to fight. And sometimes that might not be the best move. Sometimes the best move might be to wear the other person down, or to hold out on the situation until they give up or the situation changes in such an effect that then the next move that you have then time to calculate can be executed. Have you found that in wrestling, that sometimes it's not about reacting but holding yourself in that position, or doing something that wears down the other person before you engage in some type of
absolutely.
retribution? Yeah.
That's actually one of the key concepts that my coaches at Liberty actually harp on us all the time, is just hold position. Because as long as you hold position and you are poised to attack or defend at the same time, the longer you can stay in that position, the more that your opponent has to work to get around you and to get you into a bad position that they're gonna make a mistake. And then that's when you can just jump on it and you can get your points or you can get that takedown that you need to win the match. It works a lot in wrestling as well as life, because to me, there's no other sport out there that translates more to real life application than the sport of wrestling. Because to me, wrestling is, the definition of wrestling is struggling. And in life, what most people end up doing is struggling. To me, the values and principles that I've learned through wrestling over the years that I've been doing it has definitely helped me to see the greater outcomes of life and to deal with the stressful, more compromising situation that I have to deal with. Let's say that I get a bad financial situation or I have to pay a bunch of money that I don't have.
Right.
Now, it puts me in a compromising position, so let's relate that to being put on my back in wrestling, or I get caught in a choke in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Me having to pay all that money is like me being caught in a choke in jiu-jitsu. Now, am I going to panic right then and just give up and say there's nothing I can do and let that beat me? Or am I going to stay calm and try to find where the weak point is on that attack and then oppress that so that I can keep working to be able to get out of that stressful situation? So it could be, all right, well, I have to pay all this money, so now I'm going to go find this job that's going to be able to help me with that. And it's going to take a while. It's not going to be pleasant, but it's what I know I can do, and it's what I can keep pushing through. It's the same thing as, like, I can put on my back in wrestling. Am I just going to roll over and let them beat me like that? Or am I going to find a way to push off of him and get back to my stomach so I can start fighting up to get to my feet? Or keep working on to try and be able to beat the situation? Or am I going to let it keep beating me down?
Go to www.unionofmuscle.com and click on Find a Fitness Coach to find a coach that fits your needs the best. Do you work in health and fitness or want to? Just email me, coachpaul@unionofmuscle.com. Don't forget to use your promo code MUSCLE1 at www.earthskinbodycare.com, www.rubberarmmusclerub.com, and now www.ewcmma.net. You're listening to the Union of Muscle podcast, where muscle meets information and inspiration. Right, yeah, and you could choose to flail around. You know, you could get scared if you're in a choke position or on your back, and all of a sudden you're flailing around, which you're losing control of the situation totally, and then you're going to be even in a worse predicament. And I think that happens a lot in life, too, is that stressful situation comes, and all of a sudden this person, you'll allow yourself to be put into a bad mood, into a negative mood, and now you're going to start affecting the rest of your relationships. You know, friends, family, things like that. You can start affecting those negatively because you're kind of in this emotional flail, you know, where you're lashing out because you're in an uncomfortable situation. And so it can then start to affect other areas of your life besides the financial. And I think a lot of times, even when you do have that job or you have that thing you're doing that is getting you money, there's still going to be stresses that happen at that job. It may not be the most comfortable job, like you said. And so you have to be able to then not bring those stresses back home or back into your other relationships, because it's not going to help you in your life overall, right? Those relationships could help you find a way to get the job that you want or get the new experience that you want or help you reach the new goal. But if you're not taking care of those relationships because the work thing isn't going well, then you're not going to have those relationships there much longer anyways. And so it's going to kind of put you in an even worse position in
Right.
life.
What I see you're going at is, to me, life is almost like a ladder as far as your mentality and your thinking process goes.
Okay.
So you can think positively, and the more positively you think about whatever you're going through, whether it is you need a lot of money, or your relationship is going badly, or just somebody just keeps getting into your head to where you're self-conscious or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you can think positively over all those aspects, the more positively you think, the more higher on that ladder you're going to go. So then the more negatively you think, the lower down you're going to go, and everything turns into just like a slide. To
Right.
where you start thinking, oh man, well, this person is right, I can't do that, I can't do this, or I can't do that. The more you think about that, the more down you're going to go, because it's so hard to stop thinking negatively about yourself when you allow other people or those situations to dictate who you are and your outlook on life, or even whatever you're doing.
I think someone was posting, one of these feeds I subscribe to is about martial arts, and they were posting a few videos about this one guy he was actually a boxer, but he was kind of like jumping around the stage, smiling, laughing, joking, and really, and kind of juking out these other guys, just kind of in this very light and playful manner, but he was winning all the time because the other person was putting so much stress and energy and strength into it, while he was just kind of bouncing around and having a good time, and was still winning because he was keeping a clear head the whole time, while the other person was getting like all frustrated and emotional about the situation. He was enjoying himself through that struggle. And I think that's where you're taking it almost to the next level, is that at first, you're fighting your emotions of fear, and then you're able to kind of control those emotions or put them in their right places. And then on top of that, you can take it to another level in life where no matter what's going on, you can maintain the personality and the type of life that you want, no matter what struggles are coming in, no matter where they are. And then you're really a lot more likely to be in control of yourself, of your emotions, of your life. And I think that's a great place to be. It's hard to be in that position in life so much, but I think it's a very positive place to be, because it will allow you to not be worn down by the situation, be able to enjoy whatever it is that you're engaged in. And so it was really interesting to see this guy. It was, just in one or two hits he had him down, because the other guy was wasting all his energy while he was just dancing around waiting for him to drop his guard.
Yeah, and I don't know who you're talking.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I wish I could give you a name, but it's I was just watching it. I wasn't really paying attention to who it was, the name.
I try to have that same kind of mindset, like when I go into my fights or even my wrestling competition. That for the longest time, like in high school, I won a lot more matches than I lost, but I could have done a lot better if I knew how my body performed and I knew how to really understand my mentality going into competition. And one thing that I've definitely realized, like, since wrestling in college and my fight, is that I perform so much better when I'm relaxed and I'm not amped up and I'm not doing all this stuff, like overthinking. That, like, when I go into a wrestling tournament and you see all these people, like, doing all these extensive warm-ups and listening to their music and really loud, or like getting amped up and psyching themselves up for the competition because they know it's going to be a battle, so they want to almost like get their war cry out. But me, when I start doing that and I get amped up, and like, it drains me of something. I don't know what it is. Like, I don't feel any different, but I know when I wrestle, I'm a completely different athlete when I psych myself up before beforehand or during than I am that when I go in knowing that I've been here before. This is nothing different. Just go in and do what I have to do and just think of it as just another day of practice. And that has definitely skyrocketed me from being a mediocre athlete to potentially being one of the best athletes that I can be, is just going in and not really thinking about the competition until I absolutely have to. So like, for example, when I go into my fight, the whole day before, I'm not thinking about the fight. I'm just thinking, all right, where can I go eat? What's there around to do? Like, can I go hang out at the mall for a couple hours? I just want to go hang out with my friends or my family and whoever I'm with until I have to go to the fighter meeting. And then I'm all right, I've been here before. Like, this is nothing new. Okay, that's cool. Go talk to the refs. Like, just hang out with people. And then once the fights start and you see all these people walking around, like, mean-mugging everybody, trying to be that gangster, kind of looking in, like, throughout the crowd, and the people who are going to fight, trying to look tough and try to intimidate everybody that's there, like, that they're not fighting or just for no reason. To me, that takes a lot of energy. And I'm not willing to sacrifice my energy to put on a show for people before I have to put on a show for people.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Well, and you want to be approachable too.
Oh yeah. When people try to put on that intimidating front, it's so hard to know who you are and to understand why you're there and what you're doing and everything like that. So like my last fight was actually back in March, and some of my best friends from high school were there, and it was the first time they'd seen me fight for about 6 years.
Okay.
And so I was really excited to see them, and the first time I saw them was when they were in the crowd and everybody was coming in, and my first thought was, oh my word, my best friends are here. So I went in and literally just jumped into all their laps. And people are looking at me like, I thought he was the main event. Like, this guy is supposed to be like one of the best fighters. Like, why is he's acting really weird and everything? And my friends even said the same thing. They looked at me and said, "Aren't you supposed to be like intimidating people right now and putting on this front?" And I'm like, I don't care. Like, don't worry about me when I'm in the cage. Like, right now, they get the other people that they have to worry about. Watch the rest of this show before I have to worry about doing what I have to do. Right. And that promotes the best mentality for when I get into my competition. And I just know that when I'm relaxed, I'm at my best. And when I start stressing out about things that I can't control, like my opponent for this fight coming up is a wrestler. I haven't really been tested against a wrestler yet in my career, so this is something that I'm really looking forward to, because all my other fights have been go in, throw a couple punches, take them down, and finish the fight from there. So here, if I start stressing about whether or not I can take them down, or will my striking be enough if I'm not able to take them down, if I start worrying about all that I can't really control right now in my training or in my head, then I'm already losing the fight. I'm already wasting energy that I don't have. And to me, like, that's too valuable of an asset for me to be wasting on such negative thoughts.
Yeah, and you're asking a lot of other people to kind of waste their energy with you, because if they don't react the way you want, then you're going to have to expel even more energy to try to get people to be intimidated by you. And then you've spent so much time psyching people out in the beginning that when it's actually time to get into the ring, you've wasted quite a bit of energy. I think, if this was like the actual like art of war type of thing, that strategy might pay off if you can intimidate everybody so much that they're going to be intimidated out of combat. Then that's great. You never have to fight. And when it comes to life and death situation. But this isn't a life and death situation. This is a match where you can't avoid the fight. The fight will be there. It's not, the person's probably not going to chicken out of the ring before you get in there. So you gotta have a strategy which allows you to still have enough energy to where you can perform in the ring, because the chances of them chickening out at that point are very, very slim. Don't forget to use your promo code MUSCLE1 at www.earthskinbodycare.com, www.rubberarmmusclerub.com, and now www.ewcmma.net.
Go to www.unionofmuscle.com and click on Find a Fitness Coach to find a coach that fits your needs the best. I want to thank all you beautiful fitness freaks, geeks, and athletes for going to www.unionofmuscle.com and clicking on the Patrons tab. There, you are able to sign up as a patron. As a patron, you get access to commercial-free episodes of the Union of Muscle podcast. Additionally, you get additional ways to earn fit coins. You're assigned a Union of Muscles coach who's going to help you stay accountable to your own personal fitness goals. If you haven't signed up as a patron to the podcast and to the Union of Muscle, go ahead and do so now. Just head over to www.unionofmuscle.com and click on the Patrons tab. And remember to lift strong and prosper.
Do you work in health and fitness or want to? Just email me, coachpaul@unionofmuscle.com.
Listen up, all you fitness freaks, geeks, and athletes. Stop working out with pain. Use my favorite pain reliever cream, Rubber Arm Muscle Rub. Save 10% when you order at www.myrubberarm.com and type in the coupon code MUSCLE1. You're listening to the Union of Muscle podcast, where muscle meets information and inspiration.
The chances of them chickening out at that point are very, very slim.
Oh yeah, like they've known they've been going to a fight. They've been training for it. Well, they're supposed to be. They know who you are, and they know, like, they've seen you before. So at that point, when you're at fight night, nearly like a 1 in 1,000, if not more of a higher odds that they would even consider chickening out at that point. Because everybody's all amped, like they got their friends there, like they got their family there. So they're not going to just bail out when they have all those people there to support them, or that they brought those people there to see them. There's just no way that they're going to let themselves fall out of that at that point. So if they were going to do that, it would be before their friends and family bought their ticket, before everything started to get solidified, and like now that in the professional rank, like that would happen before the contract gets signed.
Right.
So like, well, to me, once that contract gets signed, like that's a done deal. Like there's no backing out of that. Like that's the safest way to go, because I have had a lot of issues like that throughout my amateur career. Because there was a time that I won a amateur title at 155 back in 2012, and it took 2 years and for me to bump up a weight class before somebody was willing to keep their word to agree to fight me. And to me, that was just almost ridiculous that many people were unwilling to go through their commitment and honoring their word that they would compete against me. Because people, like, on paper, like, I do have a very extensive background that people just don't want to fight against.
Right, they don't want to lose, you know, they don't want to add a loss to their record.
I don't want that either, but if I want to do something, right, nobody wants to lose, but nobody wants to take that risk,
right,
to see if they're getting better or not. They just want that new fighter off the block who just fights people in their back alley or in their backyard on YouTube or something.
Yeah, it's
They
ridiculous.
just want that. Yeah, they just want that untrained street fighter that they can go in and pummel in a couple seconds so they look tough.
Right.
Me, I want the best challenge that I can get. And,
Right. 'Cause that's
and
what makes you
saying
grow.
that, oh yeah, definitely. Because I don't, when I go to my wrestling competition, I don't know who I'm going to wrestle. I don't get to pick and choose who I'm going to fight or who I'm not going to wrestle.
Right.
I go in, I weigh in for whatever weight class I go to, and whoever shows up, then that's who I have to wrestle. So I've had tournaments where, even in college, I've had tournaments where I've faced Division III school where my opponent is nowhere near my level. And then the next match, literally the next match, I'm facing a Division I outstanding wrestler who just wipes the mat with me. And I don't have a choice but to go through that. And I can't just say, oh, well, he's a much better wrestler than me, so I don't want to add that loss to my record, so I'm just going to forfeit out. So he can have that win, or so that I don't have to worry about that being held against me. I was like, no, I'm going to take that match because, one, I don't really have a choice. Two, I'm not going to do anything but learn from it. You're going to learn more from your mistakes and your losses than you ever will from when you won. Because when you win, the only thing that you remember is, hey, I won. I did that. I beat this person. Cool. But when you lose, I really take it to heart is that, why did I lose? What happened to make me lose? What mistakes did I make that made me lose? Or if I did not make any mistakes, then what did he do that was better than me to where he still won? And you start breaking it down and you really analyze yourself and where you're at that point, so you can make adjustments, get better. I mean, you can take that same thing for MMA or even life. Is that, am I going to challenge myself to do this job that I don't know if I'm comfortable doing, or am I going to stay in this job that I know that I can do, but I'm not really happy in? But I know that it's safe, I know I can do it, it's easy, I don't have to do much, or am I going to take that step and venture out into something that I want to do, but I know it's going to be a challenge, but I might fail, and that failure really scares a lot of people. To me, it just doesn't make sense. Is that if you want to prosper, like your Union of Muscle slogan, that you have to be able to stretch yourself and to keep going when the going is tough. I know that's a little cliche, but I mean, it certainly holds true. The thing about wrestling that really converts straight over is how well do you handle pressure. When you're on bottom and somebody's putting all their weight and all their pressure on you, are you just going to lay there, or are you going to try to fight back up? In life, when you have, like, your family needs you to provide for them, you have to do this, or this happened, anything like that along those lines, like, when you have all that pressure on your shoulders, you have to do stuff. Are you going to let it fold you over and give up? Or are you going to be the person that says, no, I can do this. I'm going to do this, and this is what I have to do it, so I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it as best as I can.
Right, yeah, no, I totally agree. I think one thing that would help in all these situations, of course, you're talking about how you want to learn from the stress that you're under. When you're in that ring with somebody who's obviously better than you, you know they're better than you, but you go in there anyways, and that's the way it was for me when I did some martial arts back in the day, was I loved the sparring because, and we sparred almost every class, it was because that was when I really learned. And they were going to teach me, even if it was teaching me with their fists, you know, or, well, we had gloves on, we had some padding.
Right.
They were still teaching me, and I was hungry for that opportunity. It was more of a brotherhood, where we were teaching each other through martial arts about how to survive in a hard situation, right? They weren't actually going to kill me in that class, and they're not actually going to kill you in that ring, but it's an opportunity where they're willing to teach you, to share with you the different things that they've learned. And they're sharing with you those things so that way if you're ever in a real life and death situation, you've already experienced something similar to that and you know how to get out of it. You know how to handle it. And they've taught you these things through all the experience that they've done. And then if we transition that into life, those things that come at us, which are hard, we don't always have to go looking for the hard things in life. But when they do approach, if we have taken some time to prepare ahead of time, to accept those challenges and to look at them as a learning experience, we'll be able to get through it better. We'll be able to see the ins and outs because we're not coming at a place of fear. We're coming in at a place of confidence, of wanting to learn, of wanting to improve, and know that if we get knocked down a little bit, that's just us getting an opportunity to learn how to navigate that new situation. In life, I think we can do a little bit more to prepare for the hard times. So we're not always being reactive, but we're being proactive. And just like in the ring, you practice so that way you can be proactive and not only reactive to the situation. You can kind of prepare yourself ahead of time. So if you are looking to switch out of a job, so to speak, you'll probably want to see if you can't either take your spare time and work on that new career and developing yourself and learning that new career, or save up some money so that way you can, have not put yourself in that position of fight or flight where you can no longer think on your feet. I don't know if that transitions super well into wrestling and into martial arts and mixed martial arts, but if you can prepare adequately ahead of time where you have the savings in the bank account, where you've already been doing all the work ahead of time, you can almost transition directly into that new career or that new path without it being so painful if you've kind of looked ahead a little bit down the road and seen what this combatant can do, what they have done, what they're good at, what they're not good at, and know that when they have a tendency to telegraph their right fist when they punch, you'll be able to see that and know that ahead of time. So you say, well, I already knew the guy telegraphs his right hook, so I'm prepared for it. But if you go into there blind, you just have to kind of be in a reactive state. But if you can learn a little bit about what's coming up, then when you get there, you're going to be a lot more prepared to handle it. And that's how you can change that reactionary form of learning into a prepared way of learning. We don't want to go to school on the first day without your pencil and paper. You're going to need pencil and paper, so you want to go with pencil and paper in hand. You want to do all the groundwork ahead of time. And if you're having fear about that combatant being better than you, it may just be that you haven't done enough homework on how to beat him or how to find their weaknesses. And it comes the same in life. If you're scared, and we had a U.S. Olympic champion on, and these were kind of the things he was talking about, was that fear is a signal that we just haven't prepared enough. If we're feeling fear, it just means that we didn't prepare as well as we should have. Whereas if we prepared as well as we should have, we're not going to be fearful because we already know what to expect. We already know what's coming. There's no reason for us to fear because the plan we've prepared so much ahead of time that when it comes time to execute, it's nothing because we've already done it so many times that it's just like practice. Like you said, it's just like another practice. It's nothing to fear or control you about because you already know what's going to go down. You already know how it's going to play out, and you've already figured out ahead of time all the pitfalls and everything else, so that way you can be victorious going into that ring. In fact, going into that ring, it's almost like a checkbox at that point. It's nothing that you really. It's nothing at that point because you've so prepared ahead of time.
Like the fight itself is actually the easiest part because it's the shortest part.
Right.
Like you don't have to. You spend all that time preparing for that fight. Normally, most people usually take about 2 months or like the 8-week training camp.
Okay.
So you got those 8 weeks. You're preparing for that fight. You're working hard. You're dieting right, and then you got to focus on your weight and your training for all that time. After that, then you go your weigh-ins and you got the fight night. A fight, like an amateur fight, is a maximum of 15-minute promotion, like for a title fight.
Mm-hmm.
Some promotions either do 3 5-minute rounds or 5 3-minute rounds.
Okay.
I've seen it go both ways. So you have a maximum of 15 minutes that you're going to have to go hard and strain yourself.
That's a lot of cardio. That's a lot of cardio.
Oh, yeah. But in the grand scheme of things, like, what's that 15 minutes broken down from 3 to 5 minutes at a time with a 1-minute break in between each of those rounds, as opposed to all those months that you've been training and doing that same thing with less rest and more rounds and harder training partners. How hard is it to go 15 minutes after you've already gone through all that stuff for the past 2 to 3 months? To me, it just doesn't make sense. Like, when people start gassing out or even not being able to perform at the same level that they were in the first round, or they had to adjust, do something like because of themselves, not because of what their opponent was doing, to me, that's worse than not training hard enough, or that you just simply were not prepared for that fight.
Do you want to earn more Fitcoins? Go to www.unionofmuscle.com, scroll down and click on subscribe. If you haven't already signed up for our email list, go ahead and sign up and you'll earn a free Fitcoin. However, you can also sign up your friends, families, and anyone you feel could benefit from listening to this podcast. Put down your name as the reference so first click on subscribe. Put your name down in the reference field and you'll win a Fitcoin for getting more people engaged in a fitness activity. Listening to this podcast is a fitness activity because it gets people informed and inspired to live healthy fitness lifestyles.
You're listening to the Union of Muscle podcast, where muscle meets information and inspiration.
Simply were not prepared for that fight. And that, to me, my conditioning is probably one of my best attributes.
That's awesome.
And that comes with the years of wrestling, where I've had to keep wrestling and I've had to keep going. You see people like in the UFC and they start gassing out after that second round. Like, they've only been going for 10 minutes. Where you go against a high-level collegiate wrestler and those 10 minutes are going to be nothing to him because, like, for example, some of my training, we actually do what's called a grind, which is you're going with the same partner for X number of minutes. Now, that could be anywhere between 20 minutes straight to an hour and a half straight. And you cannot stop. There's no break. There's nothing. So for that 20 to 90 minutes, you're straight wrestling. Your opponent is trying to ground you into the ground and hold you there and make it as uncomfortable as possible. And the moment that you give up and stop fighting, it is his job to make it even more uncomfortable for you to where you have to fight. Or otherwise, like, you're going to get hurt, or you're going to start hurting more because you're not fighting. To me, like, those are the aspects that really has made a difference in my training and my mentality, is that, and especially my conditioning, is that even when I'm actually tired and I feel like I'm gassing out, like, I know that my body still has a lot more in me to where I can keep pushing at that rate that I have to. So when I see people gassing out and getting really tired at the end of the first and the second round, and it's a championship fight where they have 5 rounds, to me, like, that just opens up a world of opportunities where I see the mindset to where I can see them breaking.
Right.
And to me, that basically takes all the energy away from them, and all the energy that they just wasted and left, it went straight to me because I can see the end.
Right.
I know that it's like they want to give up and they want to be out of there. They're looking for a way out of there. To me, like, once I see them want that, and I see that in their eyes that they just don't want to be there anymore, then that's like Christmas. And that's the best thing that I could ever see. And especially in a competition, is you can see it. Even the crowd sometimes you can see it, and they just don't want to be there. It's one of the biggest things that I strive to look for, like in my opponents or even in my training partners. Like once I can see them start to break and fold over, that's when I, like for my training partners at least, I won't tell my opponent. I'll just jump on it.
Right.
But when I see it in my training partners, I can see that they're tired. I can see that they want to stop. But I look at them and tell them that this is the moment where you have to keep going. Because if you stop now, there's no way that you're ever going to be able to push through this. Because once you're in that spot, and you either stop and die, or you keep moving and fight on. In my mentality, as a cut and dry kind of training aspect, that those are the two options at that point. You either stop fighting and get knocked out, or you keep moving and try to find a way to win or survive. To me, it's that simple. So I tell them, like, this is the time where they have to keep going, and then that they have to be able to find that will to win or will to survive. And I see that's the biggest thing that people, even at the professional level, don't have. It really bothers me to see it at those high levels, because you are that good. You've been there for that many years. You're at that high of a level to where you can take that punishment, and you should know that you can get through it.
Right, maybe they're letting the fame of it all go to their head, and they're not training as much or not training as hard. I don't know.
Right, and I don't see that, and I see a lot of people that only train when they have a fight.
Right.
So you see these people, BJ Penn, for example. He, as far as my limited knowledge goes about it, was he only trained when he had a fight scheduled. He never trained when he was just in his downtime. He could be completely refreshed and healthy and ready to do whatever, but he just kind of did his own thing until he had a fight ready that he had to train for. And then he started training. And to me, that doesn't make sense, because in that time, you're going to lose everything that you worked to gain from that last fight camp and that last time that you were training, from the time that you start training again. Training all the time, whether it's hard training or even just technique training, but anything is going to make you better as long as you stick with it. But I can go through the motions and just watch people roll or spar, and just being there gives me a different mindset of, hey, well, there's a new opening I haven't seen before, or, hey, can you show me that move again? Like, that looked really good. Let me see if I can do that. And it's those things that will really set people apart from, like, the amateurs to the professionals.
Josh, and if you had one piece of advice that you could give to people out there who are having a hard time being consistent about their workouts?
Definitely benefit a whole lot by having an accountability partner. Like somebody that has the same goals that you do and the same mindset, and even somewhere about the same capability. So where, like for me in my training, I know I have one partner that was scheduled to fight on the same card as I am. I wrestle with him every day during practice, and me and him, like, our styles just collide, like, when we're while we're competing against each other in the practice room. And to me, that is probably the most invaluable aspect that I'll ever be able to have, is to be able to have that kind of a partner to help push me, because there are days when he's not feeling up to the task of the training, when I'm extra motivated that same day, and I look at him and I'm like, hey, we're here. We might as well, we're already halfway there, so we just gotta get going and get to it. And once I tell him that, and then he starts going, and we go at it, and then it comes in one of the best training sessions, because he's more motivated, because he knows that he doesn't want to be there, and he knows that I'm going to push him even harder, because I know that he doesn't want to be there. and I'm going to make him want to be there
Right.
because he knows that those are the days that he's going to learn the most. And then it goes vice versa to where
Right.
those days that I don't want to be there, and he's like, come on, we got to go, we're doing this. And he'll actually literally grab me and push me into the training room. And at that point, I'm like, all right, you know what, cool, we're going to do this. Thank you. This is going to suck. I don't want to do this right now. My body hurts, or I'm tired, or I'm hungry. And he's like, no, we've already set this up. We're both here. We're both ready. We're going to do this now. And then we're going to go have lunch or hang out, do whatever after we're done training. And like, I can't thank enough for having those types of people in my training camps, or even like just in my leisure workouts, because those are people that really make me do more than what I actually want to do. Because there are so many times where, like, I'll go in the weight room or I'll go into training not wanting to be there, and I'll kind of just go through the motion. And those are the people that I need to get me out of that comfort zone that everybody wants to be in. And I'm definitely guilty of it a lot myself, to push me out of that to where I'm uncomfortable. So I have to work harder to where I'm going to be comfortable, or I have to be able to keep working and being comfortable in an uncomfortable position, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
That's one thing that has really driven me to be calm, like we were talking about before, in all those situations. Like, I'm in a bad spot, but I know I'm okay.
Definitely. Yeah, I like how you said accountability. I think accountability can be very helpful in keeping you consistent with your workouts. At the Union of Muscle, you can go online and click on Even Our Patrons. Get the opportunity to be accountable in their workouts. So, as a patron, you pick your own workout routine, your own workout schedule, but then a Union of Muscle coach will make sure that you're being accountable to your goals that you set. Now, if you want to take that a step further, you can always get their coaching packages in which they're going to create the coaching program or the exercise program for you. Josh, I want to thank you for coming on to this episode of the Union of Muscle podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was definitely a good experience for me, and I really enjoyed it.
Fantastic. I wish you good luck on all your future endeavors. And for all you beautiful fitness freaks, geeks, and athletes out there, remember to lift strong and prosper.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment.
Do you work in health and fitness or want to? Just email me, coachpaul@unionofmuscle.com. Do you want to earn more Fitcoins? Go to www.unionofmuscle.com, scroll down and click on subscribe. If you haven't already signed up for our email list, go ahead and sign up and you'll earn a free Fitcoin. However, you can also sign up your friends, families, and anyone you feel could benefit from listening to this podcast. Put down your name as the reference so first click on subscribe. Put your name down in the reference field and you'll win a Fitcoin for getting more people engaged in a fitness activity. Listening to this podcast is a fitness activity because it gets people informed and inspired to live healthy fitness lifestyles. Don't forget to use your promo code MUSCLE1 at www.earthskinbodycare.com, www.rubberarmmusclerub.com, and now www.ewcmma.net.
I want to thank all you beautiful fitness freaks, geeks, and athletes for going to www.unionofmuscle.com and clicking on the Patrons tab. There, you are able to sign up as a patron. As a patron, you get access to commercial-free episodes of the Union of Muscle podcast. Additionally, you get additional ways to earn Fitcoins. You're assigned a Union of Muscles coach who's going to help you stay accountable to your own personal fitness goals. If you haven't signed up as a patron to the podcast and to the Union of Muscle, go ahead and do so now. Just head over to www.unionofmuscle.com and click on the Patrons tab. And remember to lift strong and prosper. You've been listening to the Union of Muscle podcast. All rights are reserved by the content's creators.